He was the one they called when things went wrong, the one who had to be strong when no one asked if he was okay. Not because he chose it, but because he came first. And while he was busy carrying everyone else, he was quietly losing what was his. Because being first does not mean you will keep what was meant for you. Long before today, in Scripture, there was a man who also came first. And in one moment, he traded something eternal for something temporary. And when he realized what he had lost, it was already gone. His name was Esau. It wasn't the first time something like this had happened. It never was. Somehow, the weight always found him. When things broke, they called him. When decisions had to be made, they waited for him. When everything was falling apart, he was the one expected to hold it together. And at first, it felt normal, like this was just how life worked. Until he started noticing something. Every time he stepped in to fix things, something in his own life quietly moved backward. Time, opportunities, even things he had worked for, slowly slipping through his hands. Not all at once, just little by little, enough that no one else would notice. But he did. And still, he kept showing up. Because when you are the first, walking away doesn't feel like an option. It feels like failure. And without realizing it, he was learning a pattern, one that had already played out long before him, in the life of a man who was also first, a man named Esau. He was not weak. That's what makes the story harder to understand. He was strong, built for the wild, a man who knew how to survive where others couldn't. While others stayed close to comfort, he lived outside of it. He hunted, he endured, he provided. And because of that, he was seen, favored, trusted. He was the kind of man people believed would always be ahead. But there was something no one could see. Something quieter than strength, but far more dangerous. Because while his hands were trained to fight, his understanding was not trained to value what he carried. He had something that was already his, something he did not earn, something given simply because he came first, a birthright. Just as Scripture records in Genesis 25, from verse 29 to 34. And like many things that come without struggle, he did not fully understand what it was worth. And that is where the story begins to shift. It didn't happen all at once. It never does. The moment wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, almost easy to ignore. Just another situation, another problem, another moment where something needed to be handled. And once again, it found him. But this time, it was different. Because for the first time, what was being asked of him was going to cost him something real. Not just time, not just energy, but something that belonged to him. Something he had been holding onto. Something that mattered. And he knew it. He felt it. That quiet tension, that small hesitation, the kind that doesn't speak, but warns. And for a moment, he paused. Not because he didn't know what to do, but because he finally understood what it would take. And still, the pressure remained. Because when you are used to being the one who shows up, saying no doesn't feel like peace. It feels like guilt. And without realizing it, he was standing in the same place Scripture reveals in Genesis 25, 29 to 34, where a man once stood between hunger and inheritance, and chose what satisfied the moment over what would have sustained a lifetime. The moment finally came. Not loud, not dramatic, just a simple need and an opportunity. He was tired, hungry, drained from everything he had been carrying. And in that state, clarity becomes weak, and urgency becomes louder. And that was when the offer came. Simple, immediate, satisfying. Something that could solve the now, without thinking about the future. And standing in front of it, he didn't see loss. He saw relief. He didn't see consequence. He saw escape. Because when a man is worn down, he does not think about what something is worth. He thinks about what it can do for him now. And in that moment, the weight of what he carried no longer felt like a privilege. It felt like something he could let go of. And Scripture says in Genesis 25:31-34 that he agreed. He gave up his birthright for a single meal, one decision. No struggle, no resistance, just a quiet exchange, where something eternal was traded for something temporary. And in that moment, nothing looked different. The world didn't stop. No voice warned him. No sign appeared. But something had already shifted. Something he could not see, but would one day feel. And the truth is, his story was not the only one. Because in Scripture, this pattern appears again. Another man, also first. Another position, already his. Not earned, not fought for, simply given because of where he stood in the order of birth. His name was Reuben, the firstborn of Jacob, the one who should have carried honor, leadership, inheritance. But just like before, it wasn't taken from him in battle. It was lost through a moment, a decision that seemed small at the time, but carried weight he did not fully understand. And Scripture records in Genesis 49:3-4 that his position changed, not gradually, not partially, but completely. The one who was first no longer remained first. And just like Esau, nothing about the moment itself felt like the end. But it was, because some losses don't announce themselves when they happen. They reveal themselves later, when what should have been yours no longer is. At first, nothing feels different. Life keeps moving. The calls still come. The responsibilities don't stop. And on the surface, everything looks the same. But slowly, something begins to shift. Not around you, but within your life. Opportunities you should have had pass you. Doors you expected to open remain closed. Things you once held quietly slip out of reach. And it doesn't happen all at once, just enough for doubt to settle in, enough for questions to begin. Until one day, it becomes clear. Something is missing, not lost in the moment, but lost in the decision. And if you're honest, you can trace it back to that moment, that one choice, that felt small, that felt necessary, that felt justified. And now, standing in the outcome of it, you can finally see what it cost you, because loss does not always speak when it happens. Sometimes it waits until you are far enough away from the decision. And then, the realization came, not in the moment, but after the hunger was gone, after the need had passed, after everything had settled. That's when he understood. What he gave away was not small. What he traded was not temporary. It was something that carried weight beyond the moment, beyond the feeling, beyond the need. And when he saw it clearly, he tried to go back. Scripture records in Genesis 27:34 that when Esau heard what had happened, he cried out with a great and bitter cry. Not quiet regret, not simple disappointment, but a cry that came from understanding too late. He wanted it back. He asked for it. He pleaded for it. But some things, once given away, do not return. Not because there is no desire, but because the moment that held it has already passed. And that is the part no one tells you. That not every loss can be reversed. That not every door opens again. And sometimes, the pain is not just in losing it, but in knowing you let it go. And this is where it becomes clear. It was never just about hunger. It was never just about a moment. And it was never just about them. Because when you look closely, the pattern is the same. It is not always something taken from you. Sometimes it is something you slowly let go of, without fully understanding what it is. Because when something comes to you without a fight, you can live with it without understanding it. And when you don't understand it, you don't value it. And when you don't value it, you can exchange it. Not intentionally, not carelessly, but gradually, through pressure, through exhaustion, through the need to survive the moment. And that is how something meant to stay with you can leave you without resistance. Just like Esau, who traded what he did not understand. Just like Reuben, who lost what he did not guard. And if you are not careful, you won't lose it in one decision. You will lose it in a pattern that feels normal until the day you realize something that should have been yours no longer is. And this is where the difference begins. Not in strength, not in opportunity, but in awareness. Because not everything that feels urgent is meant to be answered immediately. And not everything that relieves you in the moment is worth what it will cost you later. The moment itself is rarely the problem. It is the weight you fail to recognize while you are inside it. Because some things don't come into your life with noise. They come quietly, already belonging to you, already carrying value you did not fight for. And if you are not careful, you will treat them like they are common, simply because they are familiar. But the difference is this: when you begin to understand what you carry, you move differently, you pause differently, you choose differently. Not because the pressure disappears, but because you finally see what is at stake. And that is how it happens. Not always through force, not always through loss you can see, but through moments that feel small, decisions that feel necessary, patterns that feel normal. And even when you begin to understand, even when you start to see it differently, the truth does not change. What was exchanged is still gone, because Scripture does not hide it. In Genesis 25:34, it says that Esau despised his birthright, not because he hated it, but because he did not understand it. And in Genesis 49:3-4, what belonged to Reuben was given to another, not in battle, not by force, but through a moment that carried more weight than he realized. And that is the part most people miss. Some things are not taken from you. They are lost while you are busy surviving. And by the time you understand their value, the moment that held them is already gone. If this video stayed with you, don't ignore it. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And stay connected by subscribing for more stories like this. God bless you.